You've got your LLM and you got your private corpus of data in a RAG. Now you want to build a chatbot. How are you going to do that? Well, I've got you covered. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kirk. Okay, this tutorial is going to be a little bit different, and I'm going to break it up into multiple parts. Now, we want to build a chatbot, and of course, we want to get it out there in production so people can use it. Now, how are we going to do that? Well, of course, we're going to use Azure. Now, we've already mastered AI search. We built a RAG using AI search, and we've used models in Azure AI Foundry, and now we're going to put it all together. So we're going to go in and we're going to dive into some code. Now, for this part one, what we're going to do is we're going to go into code in Python and we're going to create things locally. We're going to dive in the code, see how we can use AI search and AI Azure Foundry in our models and start building a chatbot. We're going to run it locally, and then we're going to build a Docker container. And the next lessons, we're going to take those images, Docker images that we build, and we're going to deploy it to Container Registry. And from there, we're going to take that Container Registry and deploy it to an Azure Container Instance so people can start using our chatbot in the world. Okay, that's a lot, so let's jump right into it. We are back. And as you can see, we're back in Azure AI Foundry. And to create the chatbot, if you go to templates here, we are going to go and use this repo here, getting started with AI chat. I have it here, and I have forked it. I just forked it here. So this is on my repo, so you'll be able to get this after I'm going to show you, and I'm going to make some changes to it and tell you why I've made these changes. But you can get this from my repo. It'll be down there in the description. This is a little overwhelming to look at it, so we're just going to do it step by step. As I said, we're going to first run it locally, and then I'm going to create a Docker image and run that container locally. So let's get started. Okay, I am back in Cursor here. That's what I use for my IDE. And as I said, we already forked the repo. So I'm in AI chat. And the first thing I'm going to do is you see there's an example environment file here. And I'm just going to grab all my variables here. And I'm just going to copy all this. Create an .env file. Okay, so here it is. And let's just go over this a bit. I'm not sure why they have Azure AI project connection string here. It's not even used in the repo. This is the reason I'm doing this video, because there's a little disconnect on what's in that repo to get this up and running. So I'm going to show you everything. Now, we have our AI search endpoint. I'm going to show you that. I have these keys here. We don't need that right now, but we will need that later. I'm going to explain why. But we have our search index name, search endpoint. We have this key here, existing AI project endpoint, which will point to our Azure AI Foundry endpoints and the key. Actually, we don't need this Azure OpenAI endpoint. I have that there because I was playing around with this before. So let's jump into, I'm going to show you the search. Well, let's just go into AI Foundry. As you see, we're using GPT-4o and text embedding small as our models we're going to use. The dimensions, as you know, text embedding 3 small is 1536. And I'm just going to show you that. So we have these models deployed, text embedding small, GPT-4o. 4.0, not 4.0, just to make that clear. So these are deployed, and you remember where to get your API keys and your endpoints for both the Azure AI Foundry and the OpenAI AI. So that's Azure AI Foundry. Now let's go to the search. I already created my AI search here. We've gone over this before in all my other videos. But we can go here and let's just explore the index briefly here. I just want to show you the the schema here. Remember, we have chunk, and this text vector is our vector embeddings. I need to know this name, chunk and text vector, as you'll see in a little bit. But I just wanted to point that out. So this is built, and I just have one document here, that Nike report. I think I've done this in other tutorials, just to give an example of doing a search, a very simple search. I've done more complicated ones, as you know, in my scaling RAG tutorial. I'll have all those links below, but let's keep it simple for now. Okay, we're back in our IDE here. I just went to my source directory, and I've already activated my Python virtual environment. I'm using UV as my Python package manager. So I've already done that. And of course, the first thing we want to do, we haven't done this yet, source, is we want to install those packages. So UV pip install requirements. Let's go ahead and do that. And that's done pretty quick with UV. Now we're also going to go into the front end. Let's just look here. So we have our API. We're using FastAPI here. And you can see the static file is just nothing. There's a little bit here, but there's nothing here yet. And then our front end, we have a React app. And you can see we have a bunch of React components. So I'm not going to go too much into the front end here, but we go here and we're just using pnpm, which is it's a JavaScript package manager. Again, this is not going to be we're not concentrating on the front end. We're just using it here, but I just want to give you a heads up about that and what this is going to do. So if we just run pnpm run setup, it's going to take all those React components, those TypeScript files, and just build one JavaScript file and deploy it to our API into our static files. Let's go here. And now we have, it's right here, the main, so that's our main app. So that's all that did. Okay, let's go back to the back end and let's look at the Python files, because this is a tutorial about how to create a chat app using Azure AI Foundry. So here we are. This is main.python. And you can see that we're using all these environment variables. We are not in production. So basically, the first thing I want to point out is for our credentials, we are going to use the Developer CLI credential. So make sure you're logged in, and that's different than, so az.login, you have to use azd.login for your credentials. So that's what we're doing there. And you see when we go to production, we actually host this, which I'll do in more tutorials because this is too much to cover in just one video. We're going to use manage identity. But I want to point that out. So make sure you're logged in. That's step one. And we're going to change that after as well. It's good to play with this stuff because you learn. Now, we are going to our Azure AI Search endpoint. Remember I said that, and we're going against using our credential, and we're just making sure that we can reach that index that's there. So this is in the main. And I do want to show you something. There's a few things we need to change here. Let's go with the root. So this is where the app is going to hit the API endpoint chat. And this is where we go and fetch that data from the RAG. Here we are in chat. And you can see here, so this function here, response stream, this is called at the bottom here to get the response. And the RAG, we go into the search manager if it's defined, and we call this other function to call search with the prompt data. So in search index manager, there's search here. And you can see here that we're hitting our Azure AI Search endpoint. Well, first we got to embed the prompt with the same embedding model, which is the text embedding 3 small. And then we're going in here. And you notice this data, this is what I meant. We had to change this. This is our embedding field in our index, but this is actually text. What is it? Text vector. And this here, what we select, is our chunk. Let me save that, because remember, it's the actual chunk here. That's the name of it that's been created. And this is our text vector, which is our embedding array. So I've made that change. And let's go back. OK, and we're back here. Let's go into our roots. And I just brought up the prompt here. I am going to modify this prompt. I'm going to modify this prompt just to make sure we're only getting data back from our RAG, so you know it's not just going and using the context of the GPT model. It's only using data from the RAG to answer questions. So that's what I'm saying here in the prompt. Questions about reports. And again, the report is that Nike report. Only have one in there. Only answer questions. If you don't know, say sorry. So basically, what I'm saying is only use RAG data to answer questions. OK, let's save that. And I think we are ready to actually run this. So I'm still in front end here. Let's go back to source. And we should just be able to run this app and see what happens. And there was an error. Let me see what happened. OK, I knew what that error was. When I created my search resource, in the keys here, I actually had it only as API keys to access this. That's how I created it. We need to do both so we can use our developer credentials that I logged in here to actually hit this service. So that was that error. So I changed this to both in the reports search resource. So back here, let's try that again. And now this is up and running. As you can see, it says here, using the developer credentials, creating this index, not really creating it, it's just ensuring it's there, but it's creating it in the context of the app, you could say. And now we should be able to hit this. And there we are. It's running on port 8000. If we try something, random that's not in our report, let's see what we get back. And we get another error. Let's look and see what happened. OK, that error was legit. It was a 403 forbidden error when I actually went to read in the data from the Azure AI Search with my account that I'm logged in, because we are using my developer Azure CLI credentials to log in. So basically, what I need to do in Azure Search was give myself access to read that search index. And again, I'm going to change this. Remember, we're logged in Azure Developer CLI credentials. When we go to production, we're going to use manage identity. And I'm going to show you in a second, we're going to actually use API key credentials when we actually create the container. These are all good errors to have. And remember, when you're logged in Azure Developer Credentials, it creates an access key, and that's how it exchanges that access key to validate, see if you have access to this. So these are all good errors, all good learning experiences. So let's run this again. And here it says Azure Developer Credentials. And let's go back. Here we are, local 8000. Let me just refresh this again just to make sure. Tell me And there it goes, because of course this report has nothing about the solar system. It has only Nike earnings. So tell me about Nike's earnings. And there we go. We get something back. So we're up and running locally. The next step is we want to start playing with Docker and creating that image because eventually we're going to take that image and we're going to deploy it to Container Registry and then deploy it in Azure using container instances. So let's go ahead and start doing that work. Okay, back in our IDE, let's load up our Docker file. Again, this is not a full-on Docker tutorial, but we should know. I'm hoping you guys have some knowledge about Docker. I have some older tutorials on Docker. Okay, so let's just step through. Of course, this is Python, creating our working directory code, copying all the files over, running pip install, pretty standard stuff, updating to get our node. Oh, I forgot to mention. So when I ran locally, you have to actually install Node.js 20 or higher, and you have to install pnpm as well. pnpm, let me just Google it. PM. Yeah, this package manager here, because that's what we use to build our static JavaScript file. So heads up on that. But that's what we're doing in the container here. And then we're actually running that. I noticed an error with this. So here's another thing I want to update. I want to change this. This is going to be important going forward as well. When we actually run this, we are actually going to remove our log files because we're going to be building images based on what computer you're running. So I'm on a MacBook, one of the latest MacBooks, which is, of course, ARM64. And we want, when we get it to Azure, we want to build against AMD 64. And if you have log files, it'll try to install modules for those different versions. So we want to clear those out and install them. And yeah, so we just need to do that. And another big thing, which I cannot believe they haven't done, is in our Docker ignore. This is so crucial. We need to add env here because we don't want all of our keys and secrets in the package. That's a big no-no. So make sure you add that as well in our Docker ignore. And let's actually just add Docker ignore as well. So we do those two things. And let's go ahead and try to build it. OK, back here. Now, OK, this line here, I forgot to say, in our Docker file here, this is just getting rid of Kerberos packages from our Docker image. I don't know too much about that, but that's there. It's removing it. And then, of course, it's running Gunicorn. So Gunicorn is an asynchronous server gateway interface. This is all FastAPI as well. FastAPI Python program, which allows you to do many concurrent requests. So that's where we're running this in our Docker image. So let's go ahead and build this now. So let's build it locally. So there it is, installing all our Python libraries. And then it's going to go in here and do this command, the pnpm as well after that. There is pnpm right now. There, it is done. And I forgot to mention that I gave it a tag as AI chat demo. Now we can run this. And remember, inside our image, we are exposing the port 50505. And actually my Gunicorn config file here as well. I forgot to mention this is binding on 50505. So that's important. And again, when we go to production, we're going to change all this stuff, but that's much later on. Okay, run this, and heads up, this is going to fail. Why? Because in my Docker ignore, I don't have an end file, which makes sense. So it doesn't have anything there. And there's another reason as well, but we're going to get that. But we're going to have to figure out what to do to fix this problem because our image has no access to all these keys in our end file. What we're going to do is we're going to create a Docker compose file. So that's next. Okay, I've gone here and I've created a Docker compose file. Okay, if you don't know what Docker compose, it's something that you can just use to spin up your Docker containers locally. So here we're just saying using the Docker file, and this image will be used for the tag if the Docker file is different or if it needs to build it. It will tag it locally there. The container name, I'm mapping the ports. I'm just using a non-standard port, 8085 from our internal port. And here's where we can say what environment variables to use. So our end file. And I'm actually mounting it as well. So because when we're mounting it, it's going to have the end file. And I forgot to say in here in main, another thing, hopefully if you know, where is it? Using .end. Yeah, so not in production, which we're not. So this will be false. We're loading our end file, of course. So let's go ahead and now it's a lot easier with Docker. Did I save that file? Let's go Docker compose up now. And let's see what happens. And we are still getting an error. And I will tell you why. It's because we are still trying to log in with our developer credentials. And because this is in an image, it can't do that. So let's change this. We're going to use locally, we're going to use keys instead. So let's make that change. Okay, so now we're back in main.py. And remember, here is, because we didn't assign a tenant ID, we're trying to go in here and logging in using our developer credentials, which of course is not going to work on the image. So let's change this. Actually, let me just comment this out. Okay, so here it is. We're using Azure key credentials, and remember in our end file I defined these two API keys, which we got from the portals. And let's save that, and let's actually import our line here too to actually get this library. And let's put in here, because here I defined Azure Search because there are two different keys. For the sake of brevity, or we need to do this, let's, when we're not logged in, and of course when we go into using manage identity, sorry, when we're logged in using developer credentials, and here we're gonna need search credential, and then where are we calling our search? Let me see where that is. Yeah, so search here, we need Azure search credential. I think that's right. Is it? Yes. Okay, so let's go Docker compose down. Compose down. Now let's build our image again, because we made code changes. Okay, that finished. Now we can hopefully run Docker compose up, and this should run and work. Let's see. Okay, things look good right now. I am on, I'm on port 8085, I think. 8085, yes. And tell me about the solar system. Yep, tell me. There we are. So we have everything running in a Docker container now, which is great because the next step, we want to take that container and we want to put it in the container registry and then start deploying it to Azure in a container instance so the public can hit it. Okay, that was a lot, but I hope you got something out of it. And I hope you learned a lot by playing, seeing those errors, learning about managed identity, getting all the parts working together, and running our Docker container locally. Now, as I said, next, we're going to deploy it to a container registry. A lot to do here. You definitely want to subscribe and please like so you don't miss out. Lots more good content coming up. And until next time, I will see you later.